Hello, this is Sean from the podcast Thrive Not Survive After Abuse. We are already on, I believe, number 107. Wow, it goes so fast. Just yesterday it felt like I was on podcast number 100. We are still in a series, The Six Human Needs. And one of the things that I added to that is that often these needs are discussed in articles and in lessons just individually, but you actually have to see them all together. And a nice thing to try is actually to fulfill all these six needs, just not one, but all of them, and all. So you cannot overdo one and then hope that that will change your life, because actually that sometimes makes your life even worse. So the last need, and there actually is some sort of an order in there, is the need to contribution. Now, everyone has that in itself, right? So some people, actually Tony Robbins came up with this and brought this strong to the world. Now, those six needs are of course universal, so Tony Robbins didn't invent them, but he talks about it. And he said it's one of their top basic human needs. you know, who am I to disagree with him? So to speak. But I say, every human need is important. One is not more important than the other. But I do know, in this case, I would agree with him. If you have a need to contribute, and actually you know how to fill that need, you have a very happy life. Actually, you could see that people who actually come to that level in life, where they think a little bit more about legacy, think a little bit more, what do I leave behind, which often has to do with a contribution. They actually have a much more fulfilling life than just gathering wealth, and or only getting healthy, or only getting whatever you want, or only having adventure in life. It needs to be a wholesome thing. Now, there are a couple of areas where you have to be a little bit careful. Remember, the need of contribution, as in with all these needs, has also a lot to do with having fulfilled them healthy. Now, there are two sides of the healthy balance. One side is you don't do anything about it, right? So you don't do any, a contribution. On the other side is you could be so much outward focused. Some people have that. I had that a little bit, to be honest, where and it sounds like I'm tapping myself on the shoulders. Actually, that's so not true, because I lost sight of my own family by constantly being busy with other people. And I even actually was thinking, like, is that really the true need that I have to do a contribution? Or are there maybe other things going on? Like, for instance, do I like to have attention from the outside world? And at some point in time, it's maybe that. Or do I want to have more acknowledgement of the things that I did? So all these needs, we talked about it. The number one thing you need to do is be deadly honest to yourself, right? So you see, in this case, I could easily make it a nice story. I've always been focused on other people. See, I worked on these needs, but actually I neglected the ones that were very close to me so often by doing that. And I always had this excuse, yeah, but I was busy helping other people. But then again, you have to ask yourself, did you do that purely to really help them? Even if they were really helped well, my internal drive to do that could be maybe not so pure as I pretended at that time. So everyone has a road to take that, specifically if it comes in the need of growth and the need for contribution. You will see that that's a little bit, you have to go a little bit deeper and a little bit more altruistic look at these kind of things. So I'm just giving you an honest and open way how I work through that. At some point in time, when I started to write my book, I published the book and I saw what an effect that had, and I got a little bit loose of that feeling like, oh yeah, that's all. It's all about. It is not about me at all, actually. And strange as that is to say for a person that writes and does podcasts, which feels like a lot of self-promotion, there's always a little bit of ego involved. But I think, for the big part, I try to get loose of these things. And I'm at a point in life where I do see that the things that I've learned and been through in life, I can truly use for other things. So I try to make and help other people to make from their mess your message, right? And is there a gain? I would not use the word gain in this sense, but maybe we should just to look at it a little bit. Yeah, there is a gain, and so here I also went a little bit wrong. As I was trying to be so altruistic that there was no good exchange of energy, as one of my clients called it out. When I asked the prices, I have no problems with it. It's an exchange of energy. And if you think about it, poor people typically cannot help a lot of people unless your name is Mother Teresa or Gandhi, right? But poor people, so you need to also take care of yourself, right? It's like when you are in an airplane, they always teach you, get your oxygen mask first before you help someone else. Not quite sure if I am completely into that, but I understand the meaning of it. Because if you don't have any oxygen yourself, how can you help someone else, right? Now, that is a really good principle, but it has also gone a little bit too far, where people talk a lot about self-love and all these kind of things. And how far do you need to go with that? I don't think that far. One thing that I really learned as when I was really young, as I always had these big ideas to help like millions and millions of people, and I wanted to do that. I was frustrated that I couldn't do that, and someone said to me, actually, I met that person in the plane right after 9/11, and he said, "John, why are you so concerned about helping millions of people? Think about what you want to do for a million people. Maybe you should start doing that for just one person first." And it's not that I was not doing that. It was just I just didn't realize that in my mind I was always thinking about these big ideas, and just that I was talking about it so much, and oh yeah, I want to save the world and stuff like that. Maybe one day I can save the world. Who knows, right? Maybe one day I could be a Tony Robbins who says I want to feed a million people. But you know what it is? At the moment I cannot feed a million people, but I can feed one person, right? And maybe two, right? And then maybe next month I do a little bit better and I can feed three people, or five, or 300, or maybe 3 million at a time. But sometimes we're so caught up in our goals and want to achieve these bigger things that we forget either our family, or we could do something already really small in that thing. So the need of contribution, it doesn't have to mean that it has to be shown the world how good you are. It's really, if you have that internal drive. A couple of words that I mentioned in here is typically when you get a little bit older, you want to think about what is the legacy that what you want to leave behind. Now, the beautiful thing is nowadays that you see a lot of young persons, you could see both, right? They already start a company. They're very young entrepreneurs, very successful. Now, success is also often measured by the amount of money they make. But I must say, the young entrepreneurs that I virtually met, they crushed it, and they didn't crush it in the fact of making money. They crushed it in helping other people. There was one guy, and he helped people who were bullied. Right? He was bullied himself and knew how to coach people getting out of bullying, and he was doing that. They paid money for him, and through that he could develop programs to help more schools, and he actually started to get evidence that the number of suicides among younger people in the groups that he helped went actually down. I think the kid was 12 years when he started to do that, and he's now 17, 18 years old. I think he already reached a few 100,000 kids throughout the United States. So beautiful things. So things that we sometimes say the youth, I mean, it's all going down. Maybe. But if you forget to look at the young entrepreneurs, and a lot of entrepreneurs actually nowadays, they make from their message, right, what they do in the world. Maybe we need to reconsider about what we think about business people, right? They have had for too long a bad rep. And of course, there are bad business people. There are also bad pastors. There are bad in everything. But I must say, I'm hugely inspired the entrepreneurs that go out there and that make from their mess their message. Hence, what I try to do, I was an abuse kid, try to make that and help as many people as I can. And the more I gain, the better I can help. And then Dean Graziosi, this is where I want to end it because this is really what has to do with contribution. Um, he said, if you think that money is a dirty thing, then you have not given it away enough. If you think money is a dirty thing, then you have not given it enough away, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, so contribution can come in many forms. You can do it in money, you can do it in services, you can do it in prayers, you can do it in many, many forms. Find your form, and maybe you have multiple, right? You don't have to wait till tomorrow, you don't have to agree in it. Make it a goal for you every day or at least every week to do something good for someone else. And this is a quote from myself. I always say, if you don't put your life in service of other people, what does life really mean, right? If you don't put your life in service of other people, what does life really means? And that's the end of the six human needs. Tomorrow I will do a little recap of it. Just take it all together because I said you have to see them all in one as one piece. Otherwise, it won't really work. And then maybe I make a little connection to abuse survivors and also to the 5 energies that I sometimes talk about. All right. This was Jean with the podcast Thrive and Not Survive with another episode. I hope to hear you back tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.